repetition. Now, I take the honor of inviting one of our special guests, Mr. Sham Prasad, who is trained as water resources engineer with 2 decades of industry experience spanning North America, India, Singapore, and Middle East countries. He has relocated to India in the year of 2016 with the sole mission of making a transformative impact in sustainable water management space in Indian cities and towns. As a founder and director of Clean Water Dynamics, currently he is working on water resources projects across India in several states and Middle East, providing solutions in various segments of water resources engineering. Now we invite Mr. Sham Prasad sir to present your speech.
Hello, can I present my, yes, I can. Can someone let me know when everyone can see the screen?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Namaste everyone. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, Shrimati Bhuwani. So on the occasion of Ashad Purnami, yesterday we all celebrated Guru Purnima. So let us invoke the blessings of all our gurus and start our session. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Also, I would like to thank the organizing committee of Sevak for giving me an opportunity to present the topic on rivers. I mean, that is a subject that is very close to my heart, and your theme for today's session is care for nature and Mother Earth. So that is, I thought that talking on rivers would be a fantastic idea. So just a few a thought on rivers itself. When you say Mother Earth, I mean, if we can relate our Earth to Mother, then rivers are akin to the veins. And if you can think of, the rivers keep our blood circulation, and the minute we don't have blood circulation, we cease to exist. That's the function of rivers. I mean, they make life sustainable on Earth, or rather, it's the life. Rivers are the life, that makes the life possible on Earth. So, knowing the and again, just getting into the before getting into the subject. Knowing the importance of rivers, our ancestors formulated a way to reinforce these ideas on daily basis. So this is, pretty much most of you might have heard about it or probably use it. This is also, we use it every day. We are supposed to say this while taking bath. It says, Gange cha Yamune chaiva, Godavari Saraswati, Narmade Sindhu Kaveri, Jalesmin Sanidham Kuru. Which is basically, we also chant this mantra before, part of puja every day. This is again the same idea of reinforcing the importance of rivers in our daily lives. And the reason I also included this mantra is here. If you see Gange, Yamune, Godavari, Narmade, Sindhu, Kaveri, pretty much we see all these rivers, but Saraswati River, we don't see it today. And about 5,000 years ago, this once upon a time, this Saraswati River was mightier than Brahmaputra and Ganga, and it doesn't flow as of now. And that entire Sindhu Saraswati population moved to the Ganga basin. So that happened for geological reasons and environmental reasons. But if you look at today, if we are on the course of disrespecting our environment, maybe what once environment did to us, we probably creating such a situation for ourselves. So there is still, I hope and I believe there is still time for reversing the situation. So let us look at, I've been given a 15 minutes time. So sometimes I go over. So please, somehow, one of you let me know if I'm going more than allocated time. Uh, so what I have for 15 minutes today is we'll look at what is river. I mean, we all, as we already looked at, river is what sustains life on earth. And so let us try to understand what is river. And then I'll talk about current status of rivers in India, and we'll take a look at some comparisons. And also, we'll take a look at brief history of how we got here, and I would like to discuss some issues, about river systems in India today, like what exactly we are going through, or rivers are going through because of urbanization, and mainly because of anthropogenic activities, mainly how we live today. And then caring for river, or if there is a problem, if we address that, what is the benefit to society? I mean, it's needless to, it's like really unfortunate even to talk about, like we need the clean rivers. But anyway, we'll look at those things. Let me start with definition of river. The river, this is the only slide where I'll make you all read a little bit, but um, one second. I'll rearrange my screen. River ecosystem is a complex mosaic of interaction and interrelationship of biotic, which is basically flora and fauna, and abiotic, which is hydrological and geomorphic, etc., components in dynamic equilibrium. The point here is the rivers are not just the water flowing through a region. It is a complex, dynamic, the abiotic meaning the non-living things, and biotic, living things, existence of this abiotic and biotic things in equilibrium. We'll look at what exactly we mean by that. The ecological function of a river is linked to the hydrological variations in the river flow. Basically, this means flow variations. In at least speaking for India, we have monsoon season where we have floodwaters. In the 3 to 4 months of period, we get every single river gets flooded, and as we speak, actually, we are going through one such flooding season. And besides sustaining the ecosystem and performing its geomorphic functions, which is erosion, sediment transportation, reworking is cutting the channels. I mean, we are talking about millions of years. It has taken millions of years for some of these rivers to flow through the paths that is we see today. The river flow under appropriate condition recharges the groundwater in its floodplain. During floods, the river adds nutrients to the soil. And at the end of the river is the ultimate sink of all runoff that gets generated in any region. So when we look at river, I mean, we there is so much behind it, right? I mean, it's a complex. We mentioned that it's a complex combination of biotic and abiotic, meaning living, non-living things, and the flow variation. There is a dry weather flow. There's a wet weather flow. Whenever there is heavily raining and the runoff makes its way to the river, that is what we call wet weather flow. And dry weather, all of this performs a key function. So we have to let the river the way they are, before we uh, intervene and do things to our advantage. I mean, no doubt we need the rivers, we need the powers, hydropower plants, we need the dams, but if we, in the process, we lose the river, right? That's the disaster. So as human beings, we have to respect the nature, and as you can see, if we have to let the river do some of these core functions, we cannot really manipulate the way we are doing these days. So that's the core message. And I think I won't go into the very deeper levels of explanations of any of these things, but I think understanding hydrological cycle and watershed is a key thing for what we are discussing today. We all know that ocean, there is a huge amounts of water that gets evaporated from the ocean because 97% of our water is in oceans, and this water, when it gets evaporated, it is transported to the water, and when the condensation happens in the high altitude regions, like wherever the environment temperature is sub-zero, it falls back to ground as snow melt. And wherever there is, the places like Bangalore where we are living, the precipitation happens, it's in the form of rain. And whenever this, whether we get the snow melt or rainfall, ultimately it reaches the ocean through these rivers. See, that is how the whole cycle completes. It gets evaporated, it gets transported to the landmass, either through snowfall or precipitation. It comes back to the earth. And see, there is one key thing here I would like all of you to notice is that there is something called pervious area and there is something called impervious area. The pervious area is the green area or the vegetation, area covered with vegetation where water has a chance to percolate and become groundwater. Whereas this area, that the stripped area you're seeing in the middle, is what we call impervious area or the concrete jungle that we have created. Whenever we put concrete, basically what it does is it doesn't let the water percolate into the groundwater. So that has an, basically the difference between water falling on a natural land, it has a chance to percolate and then slowly it can make it to the river. So this is how it functions in the nature. There is a process is very slow. The water percolates, it becomes subsurface flow and slowly gets released to the rivers. So this is what we call interflow or groundwater flow. And eventually, like, let's say I'll give you an example. In the next few slides, it will become clear. But whenever we have monsoon season from June to, let's say, September, if we have this green area covered with forest or vegetation without concrete area, the water slowly gets into the groundwater, and for the next 2 to 3 months actually river is flowing healthy because the water is slowly coming to the river as base flow. Whereas nowadays what's happening is, as we are urbanizing more and more, the water that falls on this concrete area, the impervious area, runs off very quickly, and that, quickly it vanishes into the ocean. I mean, it has no chance of percolating, no chance of sustaining, recharging the groundwater. So this is just gives you an idea of what is pervious area and impervious area. It's very central to all the thing that we are discussing today. And here is another beautiful graphic that shows how exactly the river systems are created. I mean, if you look at anywhere in the world, actually, this is exactly how the rivers are formed. You can broadly classify them into three zones. Some of you, if you have gone into the Himalayan regions, wherever you're traveling, you peek into the valleys, you will find a water source or a water body river. So this is how, like, in the upper regions of if you talk about Ganga, Gangotri is where the Ganga originates, and then there is Alkananda, Bhagirathi, all these small rivulets, they start flowing. I mean, Alkananda and Bhagirathi are considerable size, but if the same example you take it to the Kaveri river, the Kaveri originates in Kodugu and Talakaveri region, and it's again in the mountainous region, and typically what happens in the head streams, the velocities are very high, and it cuts a v-shaped valleys, and you always find waterfalls, and the currents are velocities are high, as I mentioned. So the next zone is what we call the plains, right? The lower elevation streams merge to flow down gentle slopes. Valleys broaden as river starts meandering. This is, now we can imagine once the Ganga leaves the Uttarakhand part, after Haridwar, it hits the plains. And, as it goes through the Uttar Pradesh plains, the Yamuna joins Ganga and the river becomes wider and wider and the volume is more and it starts meandering. This is the transfer zone where, you can imagine the entire Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, It is our breadbasket area. And similarly, if you can relate to ourselves in this region, like Kaveri, when it enters the Mysore region, it starts receiving water from Hemavati, Lakshman Tirtha, Kapila, and starts meandering. And finally, there is a third phase where the delta region, close to the mean sea levels, we are talking, this is the region almost close to the ocean, where the levels are getting close to the mean sea level, very flat areas, where the river even further meanders, and it finally many braids are formed, and uh, via many channels it meets the ocean. So this is how a river functions. And if you can imagine, 1/3 of Indian population is living in Ganga basin. And I have a picture that shows all the rivers in India. We'll go there. Now, here is an other view. This is a more complex view of, you can call it as a 3D view with the section. Um, I'll show you why I put this. See, we talked about the head streams, or the zone 1, and then there is zone 2 and zone 3, right? This is the same concept shown in a section view. And then why it is very important is, some of us who are living in the urban areas, we can relate to this. See, river is nothing but an expression of water, or a depression where water expresses itself. For this to happen, we need to have healthy soil moisture condition, or a water table, high enough for water to express itself as river. So if you can see here, this is the area that I was talking about earlier. This is all the pervious area where whenever you have rain, it starts percolating into the soil, and this is what becomes part of water table. And this water table is high enough, it expresses itself as river. And now some of you may recall, 40-50 years ago, we used to have something called open wells, even in Bangalore. Nowadays, actually, open wells don't exist in Bangalore, and even if it exists, it's like, it is contaminated with water, because of there is absolutely no pervious area left anymore for the water table to be where it is. So now we are going in Bangalore, like, anywhere from 500, 600 feet to 1,200, and last what I heard was we had to go to 1,800 feet to get water. So this is the condition of Bangalore, and the reason why we have come to here is we have not left any pervious area in a city like Bangalore. I mean, this is the same story, I believe, in all urbanized areas in India. So the water is not percolating through the soil, and the water table is depleting at alarming pace. I mean, now in East Bangalore, like let's say Marathale or Whitefield, the water table has gone below 1,500 feet to 1,800 feet. I mean, this is really alarming in so many ways. I mean, most of you are probably know that when we switch on the motor, the water, it doesn't matter whether it is 1,500 below feet level, or 2,000 feet below ground level, it comes to us in within seconds. And now, thanks to electricity and all the borewell technologies, we can get this water that quickly. But you'll be surprised to know that some of the waters that we have in Bangalore are, we do something called isotope test. So we can actually calculate the date of this water. And the water that we are taking out through borewells in Bangalore are 2 lakh year old water. I mean, it's like, it's water that has been stored there since 200,000 years. I mean, from 2 lakh years before that, this water was saved there. And now, with the help of technology, we are taking this water in no time. So this is and the water is probably, this groundwater is maybe 2 lakh year old, but it has taken hundreds of thousands of years to get there. And this is the same process. Whenever it rains, it has to percolate, and this movement is very slow. I mean, this is nothing like what we see in the surface water. A very slow movement of water, and this has taken millions of years to get there. So before we extract groundwater, all of us have to really think about the water that we are abstracting in Bangalore is really, hundreds of thousands of years old, and it has taken millions of years to get stored there. So this is the point wanted to make here. Now, moving on to, we looked at what are the rivers, what are the functions of rivers, and we looked at the groundwater and the relationship between groundwater and river. Let us take a look at current status of some of the rivers in India. And so before we get there, before we go there, I wanted to point out a map. This is the map of our country. And can you find a place where there is no river? There's hardly any space where there is no river. I mean, we are truly blessed country. I mean, this is very unusual. You can do the same thing for any other country in the world. I mean, for example, if you look at United States, one third of United States, southwestern United States, which is almost our equivalent of our entire Indian area, there is one river. And look at our country. I mean, what we are blessed with this water, right? And we get about 40 inches of rainfall over the course of the year, and this is guaranteed amount of water. And again, no other country has something like this. We have a set monsoon period where we get so much of rainfall, and we and anyway, that's the point is we are a blessed country when it comes to water, and still India is a water adequate country, and we get above the worldwide, we get more than average worldwide annual average of rainfall. So this is how the water situation is. And there is a topic of cancer that goes through India, and all the rivers that are above this line are called Himalayan rivers. They were perennial at some point, and Ganga and Yamuna big rivers are still perennial, but it's the with the climate change and all that, the glaciers are depleting, and then that discussion for another day. But these are all peninsular rivers. But the point is, there is some area here. This is where the Saraswati River was flowing 5,000 years ago. Now we have a little bit of area that is where our Thar desert is. There is not much of water, and similarly there is a little bit of patchy area here where north of Kolar and much of Andhra Pradesh, where there are really dry areas. But otherwise, you know, uh, this is just speaks volumes for the status of our quantity of water that we have. However, if you look at the current status of rivers, this is a photo from Yamuna at Delhi taken in July 2020. And this is in our own backyard, Vrishabhavati River in Bangalore. And probably some of you may be having hard time recognizing it as river. I mean, yes, this star looking frothing is our Yamuna, and this is our own Vrishabhavati. And this is a river called Dravyavati in Jaipur. This is a photo I took 5 years ago. Uh, this is and this is another river called Umsharpi in Meghalaya. I've taken all these photographs myself, so you can be rest assured that these are the same rivers. And the reason I've added them is Yamuna is from North India, Vishpavati is from South India, and Dravyavati Jaipur is in Western India, and this Umsharpi is in Meghalaya, which is northeast of northeastern state of India. So now if you look at, we have successfully converted all our rivers, whether it is major river or minor river, we have successfully converted them into nalas. So this is a, we said we, use this mantras in the morning every day for, we're supposed to at least reinforce the idea of how sacred these rivers are, and these are the rivers that are sustaining our lives. And unfortunately, this is what we have, what we have turned them into. Now, So these are the four rivers I have just added as a sample from four corners of the country. Uh, and this is this is reinforced by study that was done by Niti Aayog. I mean, in 2014, the new administration of Modi administration did was they wanted to come up with some plan to address this water issue. So they uh, handed this task to the Niti Aayog to come up with some plan to understand what is the problem and to give a roadmap to do something about it. So they came up with something called Composite Water Management Index. So they studied the entire Indian water situation, and they came up with this report in 2018. And the findings were very disturbing. 600 million people face high to extreme water stress. 75% of households do not have drinking water on premises. I mean, this is as of 2018. Since then, a lot of things have changed. I mean, the good news is, I don't want to give you just the bad news. The good news is, there is a Jal Jeevan Mission program going on today that, within the last 2-3 years, this number is rapidly coming down. The more and more houses are being tap connections. But anyway, the today's topic is 70% of our water is contaminated. India is currently ranked 120 among 122 countries in water quality index. So the pictures I showed you are speaking, for itself, the situation. However, is everything situation is really grim? Yes, but can we do something about it? Yes, absolutely. There is a lot that we can do and we have to do. I mean, if we really have to survive as a country and have to
What are the solutions?
yeah. Well,
Solutions in a few minutes.
yeah. How many minutes I have?
In a few minutes, like
Sure.
3-4 minutes.
Yeah.
Can you present the
Uh,
solutions to all of us?
Yeah. See, this is Yamuna at Delhi during lockdown. These are the very same spots where I had shown you the frauds. This is the Yamuna in 2020 lockdown, and this is Ganga at Haridwar during 2020 lockdown. And I mean, can you see this crystal clear water? I mean, this is just 2 months of shutting down our pollution can do wonders. I mean, whenever we say we have to clean the water, we have to bring back to them health, we really don't have to do anything. Mother Earth knows what to do. What we have to do is stop polluting. We really have to get our acts together and do something about it, right? If we don't pollute them, the rivers can come back to its health in months. I mean, this is, we have just seen in like last year. I mean, so I had I think I'll just take a minute to explain how did we get here. It's really important. I mean, now that entire river system of India is contaminated, we really have to understand a bit of history. So I'll fast forward. I mean, I think I have 5 minutes, so I'll try to get through this very quickly. So if it were to be an interactive session, I would ask my audience, like, if they recognize what is this. But let me now tell you that this is called chamber pot. And if you can relate, now we call something called potty in our house. This is where the word potty comes from. This is the chamber pot that was used in England, even 1850s, actually, even through the 1850s. This is how the potty system was in England. This is, they used to keep it in their bedroom. And in the morning, they would clear these pots to the streets. I mean, this is, if you know, 1957 and 58 is when we were fighting for our first independence war, and this is the condition of London. And what happened was, all that shit came onto the streets, and that street, there are multiple ways. I mean, this is a great slide from Stephen Chapra, professor in Boston. There were cesspools, the landing into the streets, and everything made it to the river Thames. Now, in the interest of time, I'll just fast forward, but you will get the idea. So what happened was, there was every possible way. There was absolutely no such thing as either the water treatment, wastewater treatment, solid waste treatment. They lived like, the urbanization just happened, and they lived like that. And what happened was, the years of pollution in the 1858, it culminated in something called the Great Stink. The entire London was stinking like shit for months together, because the temperature stayed higher than above average for a couple of months. So then actually the parliament took their act together, and they put enough money, and finally there was this great engineer called Joseph Bazalgette. He designed the collection system, sewer system, pump stations, and they somehow avoided the the sewer reaching into the river, and they uh, uh, got the situation, on handle, or rather, they got their act together and did something about it. So right now, there are few issues. All of these are major issues that are plaguing the rivers. The first thing is uncontrolled urbanization and discharge of sewage. Right now, any apartment complex in Bangalore, if you walk in, I mean, this is the same story, of course, everywhere. They'll let the nearest lake is the target, and we take our sewage there. And in the process, we have made sure that lakes are disappeared for bus stands and other things. Even the Bangalore major, the main bus stand once upon a time was it was a lake bed, and now it is sitting on a dried up lake. So all the natural flow paths that was taking the fresh water, the monsoon water, to the lakes and eventually to the river, that has been obstructed or encroached. And obviously, we talked about the over exploitation. When you put 2 crores of people in 40 square kilometers, something like what we have done in Bangalore, obviously we can go to 2,000 feet, or one fine day we may run out of groundwater as well. And the lack of rainwater harvesting measures, improper solid waste dumping, which eventually it will find its way to the rivers. If we put it and if we don't take care of it, it will go there. And both the photos you saw, whether it is a Yamuna river where you saw the frothing, and Pushpavati, this is letting of industrial pollution, industrial effluent without any treatment. So all of these things are direct result of our urbanization. I mean, urbanization, I wouldn't say that is the necessarily the reason. It is the urbanization slash westernization with our population density, and we not doing anything is a combination that has led us to this state. And here is a very eye-opening slide that this is a study that was done from IISc Bangalore. And if you look at 1973, right, we had about 70% of, almost 68.2%, which is almost close to 70% of our area was green. It was, this is all satellite pictures. And fast forward to 2020, the red color is all the impervious area. I mean, this is pretty much what we saw in the previous slide as a difference between pervious area and impervious area. If you have a healthy system where the pervious area is more, the water really percolates through the soil. It becomes groundwater. It reaches the rivers, and you have a healthy river system. And in a 19 before 1970, I don't know the exact date. Again, there are studies out there. At once upon a time, Greater Bangalore used to have 860 lakes. Now you can hardly see any lakes here. And there was one of the studies said there are 40 to 60 living lakes, and there is about 160 lakes totally. They are in various stages of dying. So this is the uh, this is the situation we have at hand. So you saw in the last slide, the problems are multiple pronged, though even our solutions have to be multiple pronged. I had, this was, I was given 15 minutes, and I wanted to put out the real condition. This was supposed to be an awareness, I wanted to bring some awareness to the situation of water, which is groundwater, river water, surface water, I mean, all of this. So this is where I thought I would end. I think I have already gone past my 15 minutes. So in one word, if you sum up, we need to modernize surely, but certainly not by westernizing. I mean, I thought you saw some of the things that we have done. I think 200 years of the colonized mind, we still haven't got over devising our own ways. We are building STPs, ETPs, but I don't think that's going to solve all the problems. So if you still have time, I'll anyway, this is, if you go back to I think this is I've taken this from Aruna Prashna. uh, the way of life we had in India before we got colonized. We used to respect our nature. All of our way of life was intertwined with the nature, and we and believe it or not, I mean, compared to any other world, any other city or civilization in the world, we had maximum population density, and we knew how to live. Just in the last 200 years, we got colonized, we lost our way, but ultimately we had to get back to our roots to find our own solutions. And I had this much to present today, but uh, if somebody was asking for solutions, so I'll just take 30 seconds more. Any river, for it to be called as river, we need to have two important things, which is uninterrupted flow and unpolluted flow. And how do we get there? In the current scenario what we have today, we have to have 100% interceptions of all the sewage that is we are letting into the rivers, and we have to intercept 100% of industrial waste. We have to have a proper solid waste management. We have to have a multi-pronged approach. We have to have a stormwater system that can bring in the fresh water. So the day we get our act together, and there is a cost to pay in a living in urban areas, and the day we realize that and we do something about it, I think there's still, there's a hope. So that's what I would like to say. I mean, I already said benefits to society. I mean, who doesn't want a sewage-free river in the middle of the city, right? I mean, everyone will take their bikes and parks and all that. So, functional sewage system and interceptor system. I mean, who doesn't want that? Proper stormwater drainage system. And it's very sorry to say that we need a proper stormwater drainage system, because people die in monsoon season, even city like a Bangalore. I mean, it shouldn't be happening. And ecological restoration of river, we saw in the very first slide, river is just not water, a flowing body. I mean, it is a combination, it's a dynamic system of living and non-living things. So we have to respect that, and we have to let all other, I mean, there is thousands of organisms that live, and it's like, that's a completely different discussion. There is environment, and then there is one more thing I would like to point out is, a lot of people, I don't see anywhere anybody talking about is the health cost. There is a crazy amount of health cost that we are paying through other means for polluting the rivers. I mean, where I live in South Bangalore, I see like 20 super specialty hospitals in 1 square kilometer. I mean, this is not a coincidence. When we pollute our air and water, there is a heavy price that we are paying without our realization. So this is a zero sum game. I mean, we save money in not treating our rather polluting our water. We have to pay somewhere else. So uh, case studies, I would like to end with a positive note. This is a Dravyavati River Rejuvenation project that happened 4 years ago in Jaipur. This is some of the photos I took in 2014-15. This is exactly like how it was, like a sewage flowing nala, or what we call Vishwavati today in Bangalore as a Kengeri Mori. This was a stinking nala, but because of the some effort by some people, now what you have is a beautiful river front. There are public parks, there are bike paths, and people are using it. They are, in some parts actually they have no problem paying the small fee to enjoy all these facilities. And if there is a will, there is definitely a way. So with that, I would like to end my talk. If we have any questions, I'm more than happy to take them. Thank you so much again for the Sevak organization to give me an opportunity to talk about this. This is a subject that is very close to my heart. I work as a water resources engineer, and I would really like to see all rivers clean and best of their health in our own lifetime. So if you can do something about it, that will be worth all of our time here. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much, Shyam. Very nice. Some of the things that you put in, just like the body, which all has all the pipelines carrying blood. and energy is to the system. That's how the rivers are carrying energy and carrying so many beautiful things to the body, for the body to be fit. So the clean river would have caused healthy society, healthy life. Like that, a clean body system of blood circulation will cause a healthy, beautiful, healthy body. Now we put in all the pollution, in rubbish that we eat, rubbish that we, breathe, and rubbish that we put in, and cause so much of atherosclerosis, blockage of the arteries and veins, because the rubbish that gets in, and then there are blockages which happen. And we eat so much of, sticky food, which keeps
Exactly.
thing inside. Like that, in the tanks and the canals and all, we put so many sticky things, so many undesirable things, and so many unnatural things. As we put into our body, and like that we put into the soil also. And it's a very similar thing that I saw, with the body. And if we can clear the blocks, and make, like you said, and biotic and antibiotic, like whatever blockages that we can remove. The blockages are I think the arteries and veins, which the doctor will say will cause you blood pressure and all things like that. The blockages in the river system will cause so many complications. So if you learn to keep the river water flowing, I think we'll keep our blood system flowing also, and maybe everybody will be having a more peaceful and wonderful life. So I think you are working with the government to do this thing, or are you enrolling private parties to do it?
I mean, this Dravavati River project was taken up by Rajasthan state government, and there have been multiple efforts going on right now in India to do some of these things. But I think our priorities are not there. I mean, as citizens, we have to be more aware of what is the situation. I mean, why we have to have some kind of RO system or a UF system in our home, and why can't we drink the tap water? These are some of the fundamental questions we should be asking as a aware citizens. So this is, but there is a lot of these things are, rivers are actually, water is a state subject, and government has to get involved in at multiple levels to make something like this happen. But if there is no grassroots awareness and requirement from the citizens, I think we will not make this as a priority for our nation. And literally right now, uh, this is a burning issue, and soon we realize this. It's better, as you rightly said, the blockages. How long a body can take all these blockages? One day we will have a heart attack, right? I mean, that's the
What happens here also?
right. So we have to get our acts together very, very soon, and we have to start acting somewhere. So
Again, one more question about this RO system. Is it not good, or is it okay?
No, actually, RO system, it's a slightly involved answer. So I'll try to do my best to answer this. See, for example, in Bangalore, I'll just take Bangalore example and talk about it. See, wherever there is Kaveri water supply, there is something called TDS, total dissolved solids. These total dissolved solids are less to begin with in the surface water. So wherever we have this Kaveri water supply, we absolutely don't need RO system. RO, what exactly it does, it takes out all the minerals and leaves the water empty of dissolved solids. So this actually has a negative impact on our body. Water being a universal solvent, it probably leaches the minerals from our body. I mean, that's not a healthy system. Actually, there is a ban on, I don't know the exact status of where it is, but I think ban on RO systems in NCR region.
RO water, no, if you use it in the plants and even fish tanks and aquariums, the fishes don't survive, or the plants don't survive it.
Okay, I didn't know about that, but it's definitely detrimental to health. And what we need for where there is surface water supply, we just need a UF plus UV, ultrafiltration, and then ultraviolet UV for basically the disinfectant. As a disinfectant, you need UV. So we need a basic UF plus UV that would be more than sufficient. And we should really avoid RO for many other reasons. I mean, you get 30% as reject. And a lot of, right now we are talking about the most of the pollution that's happening in river is because of the wastewater. And we are, even with the drinking water, we are taking 30, every drop counts. I mean, even that 30% is let into the water. However, having said that, in Bangalore right now, 1/3 of area is supplied with the groundwater, I believe. And whoever using the borewell water, if the TDS level is 2000, and some cases it's 1500 and 2000, in those cases, you can use an RO, and that TDS amount will bring down to 400, 500 level. That is probably okay. However, there is no harm in drinking water with high minerals as long as it's palatable. I mean, suits one's taste.
The toilet water and all the wastewater which comes, no? Are there filter systems which are, arranged by the government, or is this just dumped in a river or tank? Or
Right. Again, right now, speaking for just Bangalore, I mean, this is the same case for entire India. Like only 1/3, anywhere from 1/3 to 40% or 50% max of water is getting treated. And again, the treatment has a lot of issues. This is every drop of sewage has to be properly intercepted through sewage system, and it has to be treated through sewage treatment plants, and then it has to be let into the water bodies. There is elaborate guidelines from Ministry of Environment, Forest, case, Karnataka State Pollution Control Board. There are many levels at which the pollution norms are made and the legislations are have been made, but unfortunately where we lack is the enforcement. And similarly, the effluent from industry is another huge issue, and whole lot of industries are categorized as cottage industries, so they don't come in purview of any of this many of our laws. So it is people are not realizing that as I said, there is a health cost that we are paying, and majority of the people who are bearing the brunt of this health cost is also the lower segment who are trying to I mean, it's again, it's a complex economic and law enforcement, and then urbanization. There is it's a very intertwined, complex issue, but nonetheless, there are solutions. If we make it a priority, all of these can be addressed one by one.
there's this feeling that even when I clean up the toilet water, no, though people say it's clean and nice, it's very difficult for people to drink it up.
Yes, sir. Actually, you brought out the beautiful point. Actually, this is one of the subject that we have to deal with, in the sense that I had a Aruna Prashna. I had a Vedic hymn here. If you look at, one should not urinate or release bodily waste into the water. This is vratam that should be observed. This is what our scriptures say. One should not spit into water. That is vratam. One should not take bath in the water without clothes. This is absolutely how we lived, believe it or not, until we got colonized. Unfortunately, our population increased in the last 200 years, and we were not at the control, and somehow we ended up where we have ended up. One of the things is, I'll give you some, now that you're asking some of the engineering questions, I'll tell you, Bangalore generates about 1800 MLD, million liters. That is 1 million is 10 lakh liters, right? So 1800 MLD of wastewater on a daily basis. And I think something like 1400 comes from 800 MLD comes from Kaveri supply, and rest of the things are taken from borewell water. So now 10 ml, I think it's I may be off with numbers, but just to give you some idea, like even 10 MLD treatment plant, it takes crores of rupees just for the electricity to maintain these things. Why this is important is that as a country, can we afford to treat just spend thousands of crores of rupees on just electricity of sewage treatment plants? I mean, the answer is probably no, right? So we have to find our way out of this. And one of the things is, you know, I'll tell you some of the things. Our country, unlike Western countries, like especially in the Northern Hemisphere, like Northern Europe and all that, we are blessed with sunlight. And the human feces, it in our current situation, like, you know, where our country is located and how much sunshine we get, the fecal matter breaks down in less than 48 hours. However, the minute we mix with the water, which is the Western type of body we have and the collection system and all that, it becomes a mess. I mean, if you have read Mark Twain's uh, one of the stories, I think it is somebody spills kerosene in the boat, and there was no way to get rid of the uh, uh, smell, right? We are doing something like that. So the minute we mix these two things, now we are talking about the reversing of process of, you know, taking the solids out of water is a very costly affair. I mean, this is a very intense engineering process, the whole STP and all that. So if we can come out of that whole mentality and if we can address these things, you know, there are ways to do it. As I said, we have to innovate ourselves out of this mess rather than doing some things which are practiced in the West. It's very expensive and it's not sustainable.
One suggestion for that, very expensive thing. Like how we have rainwater filters, can we have filters of the sewage water along the line which goes, so that a lot of pieces, a lot of things are removed at different stages. So
Yes,
there's not so much of collection at the end point.
absolutely. So
And
in
converted into manure. No, I'm not very sure whether human manure, feces can be manure for the plants, but the animals consume it and convert it into manure. But before the animals consume it and convert, there are certain earthworms and certain bugs and all things, which eat it and then convert it into manure. But whether it can be converted into manure by a human being himself, by some process.
there are ways to do that. Again, in urban areas, like, there is ideas of segregating the black water with the gray water. The black water is the water that has touched the feces, human feces, that is directly coming from the toilet, whereas all the other water which is less polluted, which is, we call it gray water. So there are mechanisms for treating gray water separately and black water separately. And then even in the village sites, there are double soap pits. There are various concepts that we have to do, but most of this, in my opinion, it has to be decentralized and addressed at the source itself, and rather than collecting everything to bringing it to one huge STP and collecting it. I mean, we may require all of it. We, at the end of the day, we may require all of it as a solution, but I think we have to do all of it, like, segregating black water, gray water wherever possible, in like high-rise apartment complexes and things like that. It's very much possible to segregate these things at the source and convert these, as you rightly said, create the manure and use the solid waste and similar things at the village level. We have to isolate the black water with the gray water and treat them separately, and we can do all of these things. And some of these mega cities, we have to go the standard STP way. So
As we are on the subject now, just thinking again, I used to live, in an old house, 100-year-old house, and we used to have a septic tank at the back of the house. So whatever the toilet refuse, would go into that one, and it would overflow, and only the water would go, and then the solid refuse will stay in it. And so once in a way, once in a year or once in 6 months, we'll get somebody to remove it and take that refuge and put it in a certain place for the next cleaning. Whether, and then the community drainage came and these things stopped. So
yes, actually, you're right on the dot, actually, on even that one. What a properly designed septic tank does, it provides some level of anaerobic treatment. And as the sludge, this works at a very, when the numbers are very small, we can have a properly constructed septic tanks. And there is, we can modify them to anaerobic digesters. and the supernatant can be let into the land applications, and the sludge after digestion, it can be taken out and used as a manure. Yes, all of these can be all of these are doable solutions.
One last thing I want to put in, because we have other things to do also. I used to stay with a person called Dr. Swami Jitananda. He was a heart doctor who turned into a yogi. And he would have students from India and abroad. And he had built separate toilets, for the foreign students and the separate toilets for the Indian students. And say that this is a vegetarian toilet and this is a non-vegetarian toilet. And the vegetarian toilet, the feces would go into this septic tank, and that biogas, which came, was used as a, for the lighting of the stoves and cooking. But the other one, which is from the non-vegetarian people, the students who came were eating non-vegetarian food, he said that's highly dangerous and it's got ethane and methane and it can explode. So that was the, let out. But this vegetarian toilet, the gases were used for the lighting and the cooking of the gas.
Wow, that sounds very interesting, and I would like to know more about that. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, that it's part of the decentralized solutions. We have to deal all of these problems at the source, and if we clean up our act at our home itself, and problem at a large scale will probably not happen.
Yeah. Okay, you are in Bangalore. Maybe Vijay can go over and we can see some more things we want to do.
Sure, sir. Absolutely, it will be my
Thank
pleasure.
you so much for being with us and sharing all this with us. Thank you so
There's
much.
also one last question from our next presenter, Dr. Ramita. She wants to ask Sham, how can we clean water naturally at home?
How clean?
How can we clean water naturally at home?
Uh, you mean for drinking water purposes? I am assuming it's for drinking water purposes.
Yes.
Yeah. So, as I said, there is something called IS Indian Standards 10,500 test. You can get it done from any lab. They would test it for almost 50 plus parameters. Any lab actually sounds not correct. I mean, you can go for a NABAT accredited lab, and you can get the water tested for IS 10,500 parameters, and it will tell you whether your water source is biologically contaminated or how much there is certain things that we would like to know is the TDS values, the fluoride content, and heavy metals, and it will monitor all these things. I mean, if your source of water is good, then actually there are basic filtration would work, and actually there are some models available in the market. I think I heard there was even Tata's have come up with a very basic filtration which doesn't require any electric ways of treatment. I can again send to Vijay the list that he can circulate to whoever has a question. Like, people who have Kaveri supply can use UF plus EV, whereas people with borewell and Kaveri water mixing, there you can use something called green RO, which is which actually reduces to only some extent. And then there is standard RO if it's a highly brackish water, you can use RO. So there are multiple solutions based on where your water source is coming, or rather your water sources.
So how safe is this tanker water?
Oh, you touched upon one of the highly controversial issues. Tanker water is something that should be avoided at any cost. In Bangalore, what's happening is, for example, the Vrishbhavati photo that you saw in my slide, it's directly, I've taken that photo myself. So it has the tar kind of substance that you're seeing is loaded with heavy metals, and it'll get more involved answer, but to point some of the things, we are dealing with some of the unforeseen pollutants. Like, for example, this is, I know, sorry for emphasizing again and again, again, with westernization now, we have heavy medication usage in the urban areas. It has gone through the roof, and the cosmetics and some of the hormone based things, these actually, when we drain in our body, it directly shows up in your wastewater. And our treatment plant, however sophisticated it is, they're not meant for treating some of these things. So we don't even know what we are putting in the, in our wastewater. So we don't even know how to treat it. So this is where it gets very complex, and the water, the sewage, industrial effluent, all of this that is making into the Bellandur Lake, Vartur Lake, and all of the lakes in Bangalore. Some of the tankers actually, they take water with the shallow aquifers directly connected to these lakes in Bangalore, and they supply this water, and that gets mixed with the borewell water and all of this. So it is very dangerous. I mean, in my opinion, it is very dangerous. It should be avoided as far as possible, and everyone should do rainwater harvesting, whether it is a individual house or a complex. And you should, if it is a borewell, you should make it sustainable source, so you can rely on your own water. And Bangalore gets about 850 of guaranteed rainfall every year, and we are again blessed that, from starting from April all the way till November, we get enough rainfall. So if you properly install a properly engineered rainwater harvesting solution, you can have your own water for most of the year. So there are ways to avoid tanker waters and all that, and it should be avoided at any cost.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shyam.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you all.